Deep Nutrition: Why Your Genes Need Traditional Food by Catherine Shanahan, MD, and Luke Shanahan. Have you ever scrolled through old family photos and noticed something strange about siblings? Picture this. The older brother looks like he could be on a movie poster, with that perfectly chiseled jaw and striking features. Meanwhile, his younger brother, born just a year or two later, has softer angles and a narrower face. He's good-looking too, but different somehow. He might even look older than his older sibling, which makes no sense at all. Most of us would shrug and say, well, that's just genetics for you. One kid hit the jackpot, the other didn't. Random luck of the draw, right? But here's where things get interesting. What if it wasn't random at all? What if the difference between those brothers wasn't written in stone before they were born, but shaped by something as simple as what their mother ate between pregnancies? What if the food on her plate could literally reshape their faces, determine the density of their bones, and set the trajectory for their entire lives? This is the mind-bending revelation at the core of Deep Nutrition, a book that'll make you see every meal in a completely new light. Dr. Kate Shanahan, the author, stumbled onto this secret in the most unexpected way. She didn't find it buried in some dusty medical journal. In fact, what she discovered contradicted pretty much everything she'd learned in medical school. Her journey started with a personal crisis, a mysterious injury that left her debilitated and searching for answers that traditional medicine couldn't provide. Desperate to heal herself, she began questioning everything she thought she knew about nutrition, which sent her down a rabbit hole that lasted over a decade. What emerged from that investigation was revolutionary. Food isn't just fuel for your body. It's not simply calories or macros or numbers on a nutrition label. Food is actually a conversation. It's information that speaks directly to your DNA, instructing your genes whether to build a body that's strong, vibrant, and resilient, or one that struggles with sickness, weakness, and early aging. Today, we're diving into the incredible story she uncovered. By the time we're done, you'll understand this hidden language of food. You'll discover why the healthiest cultures in history never obsessed over calorie counting, why they treasured certain foods we've been warned against, and how you can tap into their ancient wisdom to transform your health, reshape your future, and give your children the most valuable inheritance imaginable, a legacy of genetic strength. This is Deep Nutrition. Let's kick things off with an idea that changes the entire game. For most of the past century, we've been operating under the assumption that our genes are set in stone. You're dealt a hand at birth, and that's pretty much your destiny. If your family tree is full of heart disease or diabetes, you're basically just waiting for your turn, right? Well, there's a fascinating new field called epigenetics that's flipping that script entirely. Think of your DNA like a magnificent grand piano. The keys, your actual genes, are fixed. You're born with them, and they're not changing. But here's the thing. The music that piano produces can vary wildly. It can be a symphony that brings tears to your eyes, or it can sound like someone's cat walked across the keys. Epigenetics studies the pianist. And the most influential pianist in your life? The food you eat. Every single meal sends signals that tell your genes which notes to play and which to skip. These signals flip genetic switches on and off, fundamentally changing how your body functions, builds itself, and ages. This isn't some slow evolutionary process taking millennia. It happens within one lifetime. Even more remarkably, it gets passed directly to your kids. Dr. Shanahan describes this as, quote, genetic wealth. Think of it like a trust fund. Some families inherit financial wealth, which gives them a cushion. They can make a few mistakes without going broke. Similarly, some people inherit tremendous genetic wealth from generations of ancestors who ate well. These are the people who seem impossibly lucky. They can party through their 20s, survive on pizza and beer, and still look like they belong on a magazine cover. But here's the catch. That wealth isn't unlimited. They're essentially spending down their inheritance. And when they have children, they're passing along whatever's left after they've depleted it. Their kids won't have the same advantages. The bones won't be quite as dense. The facial features not quite as symmetrical. This phenomenon is what Dr. Shanahan calls second sibling syndrome. She noticed this pattern everywhere once she started looking. In celebrity families, in old yearbook photos, in her own practice. The first child often had a broader, more open face, a stronger jaw, and balanced features. But the younger sibling, born just a year or two later, frequently had a narrower face, a less prominent chin, and less defined bone structure. The reason is both simple and profound. Pregnancy and breastfeeding are incredibly demanding on a mother's body, draining her reserves of crucial nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and specialized fats. If she doesn't have time to fully rebuild those stores between pregnancies with the right foods, the second baby is essentially constructed from what's left in a depleted cupboard. The genetic blueprint is identical, but the raw materials are lower quality. The placenta does its best, actually pulling nutrients from the mother's own bones and brain to give the first baby every advantage. But for the second child, if the pantry is bare, biology makes a practical compromise. It builds the healthiest baby possible without endangering the mother. The result is a child who's just as loved and valued, but who may face subtle health challenges throughout life, needing braces, glasses, dealing with allergies, or having joint problems. This observation raises an unsettling question. If nutrient deficiency can visibly change how a child looks, what's happening to the things we can't see, like heart strength, immune function, or brain development? And if this is happening within individual families, what's happening to entire societies after several generations of eating the most nutritionally depleted diet in human history? This led Dr. Shanahan to wonder, is there an ideal blueprint for human health, a form our bodies naturally take when everything goes right? She found her answer in an unexpected place, the work of a plastic surgeon named Dr. Stephen Marquardt. Marquardt had devoted decades to answering one question: what makes a face beautiful? He wasn't interested in opinions or cultural preferences. He wanted a mathematical, universal answer. After analyzing beautiful faces across all ethnicities and historical periods, he found it. Turns out, all classically beautiful faces, whether belonging to an African queen, an Asian model, or a Hollywood star, follow the same geometric pattern. This pattern is based on a mathematical ratio called phi, or the golden ratio. It's approximately 1.618, and it appears constantly in nature, in nautilus shells, tree branches, flower petals. This is nature's formula for strong, efficient, functional growth. Our brains are wired to recognize it instantly. When we see a face that's developed perfectly according to this phi ratio, we're not just seeing beauty. Our subconscious recognizes health. We see a body whose development was so uninterrupted by deficiencies or toxins that it crystallized into its ideal form. This is the package deal effect. Beauty and health are two expressions of the same thing. The conditions that allow our DNA to build a beautiful body are exactly the same conditions that build a healthy one. So, if this beautiful, healthy form is our natural default, why don't we all look like supermodels? Because our modern diet has systematically stripped away the precise nutrients our genes expect, nutrients they've relied on for thousands of years to build bodies correctly. We've essentially burned through our genetic inheritance as a society. Dr. Shanahan calls this the Great Nutrition Migration. We didn't migrate across continents, we migrated in how we think. We left what she calls the culinary Garden of Eden, where food was understood as a sacred connection to nature, and entered nutritional outer space, where food became processed, shelf-stable industrial products. This migration started over a century ago when we began talking about food differently. Instead of discussing fish or vegetables or butter, we started using chemistry terminology: protein, carbohydrates, fat. This linguistic shift was a goldmine for the emerging food industry. It let them take cheap ingredients, corn, soy, industrial seed oils, break them into chemical components, and reassemble them into something that resembled food. Crackers, cereals, snack cakes, frozen dinners. It's basically all the same cheap ingredients, cleverly rearranged. Most of what fills the center aisles of grocery stores is essentially human pet food. This industrial diet introduced two major villains into human nutrition: two substances our bodies had never encountered in such massive quantities. These two culprits, Dr. Shanahan argues, are the primary drivers behind modern epidemics of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. The first villain is something we've been told is actually good for us: vegetable oil. For over 50 years, we've lived under the influence of something called the diet heart hypothesis, championed by a scientist named Ancestral. He's the guy who famously convinced America that saturated fat and cholesterol from foods like butter, eggs, and red meat would clog our arteries and cause heart attacks. His work launched the low-fat craze and made margarine and vegetable oils seem like health foods. But there was a massive flaw in his research. In his studies, the saturated fat he used wasn't from butter or steak. It was from margarine, a hardened industrial product made from partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, loaded with an artificial toxic fat we now know as trans fat. He blamed the butter, but the poison was in the margarine all along. The reality is, our bodies are literally constructed from natural fats. But the fats in vegetable oils, corn, soy, canola, sunflower, are different. They're mostly made of something called polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs for short. Dr. Shanahan gives us a memorable way to think about it. PUFAs go poof. These fats are incredibly fragile. When exposed to the high heat and pressure of industrial processing, they get damaged and twisted. They oxidize. They transform into what Dr. Shanahan calls megatrans, toxic, mutated fats far more dangerous than the trans fats you hear warnings about. When you eat these damaged fats, they trigger a firestorm of free radicals in your body. It's like a molecular zombie apocalypse. One damaged fat molecule crashes into a healthy one and converts it into another zombie. This chain reaction, called a free radical cascade, creates widespread inflammation. When this happens in your arteries, it doesn't just clog them, it literally burns them from the inside. The delicate lining of your blood vessels becomes brittle and fragile, like overcooked chicken skin. Your body then tries patching up the damage with cholesterol, forming plaque. The heart attack or stroke happens when a blood clot forms on one of these fragile, ruptured plaques. Cholesterol isn't the villain, it's the firefighter showing up to a blaze caused by vegetable oils. The second major villain is, unsurprisingly, sugar. But the problem extends far beyond candy and soda. Your body treats all refined carbohydrates, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, cereal, as sugar. A big plate of spaghetti is basically a big plate of sugar, as far as your body's concerned. When you flood your bloodstream with sugar, something called glycation happens. Here's a simple way to picture it. Sugar is sticky. Inside your body, it literally gums everything up. It coats the receptors your hormones use to communicate, like jamming glue into a lock. One of the most critical hormones it disrupts is insulin. When your cells can't hear insulin signals anymore, you develop insulin resistance, leading to prediabetes and eventually full-blown type 2 diabetes. But the damage doesn't stop there. This sugar-coating process creates advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. The acronym is perfect, because AGEs literally make you age faster. They cause your skin's collagen to become stiff and brittle, creating premature wrinkles. They harden your joints, causing arthritis. They damage brain cells, contributing to dementia and Alzheimer's. Sugar acts like a brain cell defoliant, pruning away the delicate connections your neurons need to communicate. It's also powerfully addictive. Research shows sugar lights up the same pleasure centers in your brain as cocaine and can be even harder to quit. When we give kids sugary juice boxes and snacks to calm them or reward them, we're literally wiring their brains for addiction. So if our modern diet is basically a minefield of inflammatory fats and addictive sugars, where do we turn? How do we find our way back to that Garden of Eden? This is where Dr. Shanahan's greatest discovery comes in. She realized you don't need to follow one specific diet, like Mediterranean or Okinawan. Instead, she discovered that all successful, healthy traditional cultures throughout history built their cuisines on the same foundation. She calls them the 4 Pillars of World Cuisine, These are the foods that speak the language your genes understand. The first pillar is meat on the bone. When we cook meat with bones, skin, and cartilage intact, something magical happens. The slow, gentle heat breaks down tough connective tissues, releasing molecules called glycosaminidoglycans. You might recognize their names from expensive joint supplements, glucosamine and chondroitin. Making simple bone broth is like creating your own youth serum. These molecules travel directly to your joints, lubricating them and stimulating new cartilage growth. They fortify bones with easily absorbed minerals, like calcium. They rebuild the collagen matrix, keeping your skin firm and arteries strong. For generations, this was the secret to staying mobile and vital well into old age. The second pillar is organ meats and offal. These are what Anthony Bourdain lovingly called the nasty bits: liver, heart, kidney, brain. In modern culture, we toss these away, but for our ancestors, they were the most prized parts of the animal. Why? Because they're nature's original multivitamins. Liver, for instance, is the body's storage vault, packed with concentrated fat-soluble vitamins, like A and D, plus B vitamins and minerals. Brain is an incredible source of omega-3 fats critical for our own brain health. The old wisdom was beautifully simple. Eating an animal's eyes strengthens your eyes. Eating its joints strengthens your joints. These foods contain the precise, complex nutrients needed to build and maintain our own bodies. The third pillar is fermented and sprouted foods. This pillar harnesses the power of the microbial world. Plants don't actually want to be eaten. They protect their seeds with toxins and anti-nutrients that block our ability to absorb minerals. But our ancestors discovered two brilliant ways around these defenses: sprouting and fermentation. Sprouting activates a seed's own enzymes, neutralizing toxins and converting stored starch into vitamins and proteins. This is why sprouted grain bread is vastly more nutritious than regular bread. Fermentation enlists beneficial bacteria, probiotics, to do the work for us. These microbes are like microscopic vitamin factories. They pre-digest food, create new vitamins like B12 and K2, and battle harmful pathogens in our gut. Real yogurt, real sauerkraut, real pickles, and real sourdough bread are living foods that strengthen our immune system from within. The fourth pillar is fresh, unadulterated plant and animal products. This is about eating foods in their most natural, raw state, whenever possible. Think of a crisp, fresh salad with herbs, or dishes like sashimi and steak tartare. Raw foods are packed with delicate antioxidants and enzymes that heat and processing destroy. This pillar also includes one of the most historically important and controversial foods for human health: raw milk. Dr. Shanahan describes raw milk from healthy grass-fed cows as having a perfect living architecture. Its fats, proteins, and minerals are encased in delicate membranes that ensure optimal digestion. Pasteurization and homogenization, she argues, destroy this architecture. The heat damages the proteins, and the intense pressure shatters the fat globules, transforming a perfectly nourishing food into something potentially inflammatory and hard to digest. These four pillars aren't a diet in the restrictive sense. They're a foundational philosophy of eating. They're the common thread connecting every healthy, long-lived culture on Earth. They ate meat on the bone. They valued organ meats. They fermented and sprouted their foods. And they ate fresh, raw ingredients. By doing so, they gave their genes the complex information needed to build strong, resilient, beautiful bodies, generation after generation. Reclaiming this lost wisdom is our path back from nutritional outer space. It's how we stop bombarding our genes with the static of processed food and start speaking to them in the language they were designed to understand. When we do that, the results transcend just losing weight or preventing disease. It's about unlocking our full human potential. It's about rebuilding our depleted genetic wealth and passing the greatest possible inheritance to future generations. What makes Deep Nutrition so powerful is that it's not just another diet book telling you what to eat and what to avoid. It's a complete paradigm shift. It asks us to stop seeing food as an enemy to be controlled through calorie counting and willpower, and instead recognize it as our greatest ally in building a healthy life. The central message is deeply empowering. We're not helpless victims of our genetic inheritance. We're the stewards of it. Every meal we eat is either building up our genetic wealth or slowly draining it away. That's a significant responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. The lessons can feel overwhelming at first. Eliminating vegetable oil and sugar seems nearly impossible when they're in literally everything. But the beauty of the 4 Pillars framework is that it gives you something to move toward, not just something to run from. Instead of focusing on deprivation, you focus on addition. So where do you start? You don't need to overhaul everything overnight. Start with one simple change. This week, maybe tackle Pillar 1. When you buy chicken, choose it with bones and skin still attached. After you roast it, don't toss the carcass. Put it in a pot, cover with water, add a splash of vinegar and some veggie scraps, and let it simmer for a few hours. Congratulations, you just made bone broth. Use it to cook rice, or as soup base. You've taken your first step. Or maybe start by tackling the villains. Look in your pantry, find that bottle of canola oil, and just get rid of it. Replace it with butter, olive oil, or coconut oil. That one decision alone eliminates a massive source of inflammation from your diet. Dr. Shanahan's work reminds me of an old proverb: a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they know they shall never sit. Eating this way is like planting a tree. The benefits you experience now, more energy, clearer skin, fewer aches, are just the beginning. The real gift is the shade you're creating for future generations. It's the legacy of health you're building into your family's very code. That was a summary of Deep Nutrition: Why Your Genes Need Traditional Food by Dr. Catherine Shanahan. We've explored the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. The real adventure begins when you decide to visit yourself. The book is filled with stories, recipes, and scientific details we couldn't cover here. If anything we've discussed has sparked your curiosity or given you new hope about your health, I genuinely encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely transform how you see every meal for the rest of your life. There's a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration into another life-changing book. Let's keep growing together.